grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, actually 11th and 12th briefly, and then ended on the college level. Was very, very content. Education is my passion, and it is important to develop a passion. Whether you plan to go into office or not, you have to have a passion. You can't know everything about everything, but if you have a passion, you can make a difference in a select area and then actually impact other areas as well. But I was very content. In 2004, my husband, who had been a legislative aide for 12 and a half years and actually served as the legislative aide for Speaker Alan Bentz before he was Speaker, decided that he wanted to run for his own seat. And I know you think, well, why is she telling her husband's story? Well, I'll get to that. My husband, along with my 3 children and myself, we worked very, very hard together. We knocked on thousands of doors. And he was elected in 2004, November of 2004, and in December was diagnosed with cancer. It was a traumatic, tragic time, and he died very shortly thereafter in March. And we were faced with this dilemma. I mean, we had worked so hard as a family to get him where he was. And after the funeral, we were sitting there, and we had been very involved. We were kind of one of those, I don't know, maybe it may seem nerdy to some people, but we would actually sit at the dinner table and discuss politics with our young children. So they grew up around the process, loving the process, and knowing that it isn't perfect, but that it does make a difference. And so we were sitting around, and my daughter, who was then 17, so probably your age, looked at me. First of all, my son, who was at that time 12, looked at me and said, "Mom, who is going to take Dad's seat? I don't want Coley to come off that nameplate." And we were sitting there, and I just kind of looked at them. My 17-year-old daughter looked at me and said, "There is absolutely only one person that better take his seat." And I kind of looked at her and went, like, who would that be? I'm a teacher, you're 17, I'm not sure who you're talking about. And she said, "You, Mom, you know where we were headed. You know the ideals, the values." And I represent a very conservative area, and I am very conservative. And I know we're not partisan, but that was important to our district. My children and I knew what was important to my husband, where he was headed, what he was going to work on. And I went, okay then, got to have you with me, got to have your help. And with that, we embarked on a very quick special election. I actually had an opponent, and within the month of my husband's passing, had to go out and campaign. But I realized something important, that life is much bigger than just one person. And you can't just quit and say, you know what, I'm done, I'm not going to be part of life anymore. There are too many things at stake. And so I was honored in 2005 to be elected to the State House of Representatives, and it has been an incredible, an incredible journey ever since. I heard on the radio driving over here this morning. I drove from Marianna. We were without power most of the morning, so it was an interesting, yes, Marianna, hey, yay, very good. But I heard someone say, you know, success is not a destination. It is a journey, and that is so true. It is not a destination. If you ever reach what you think is success and stop, you're probably in for a disappointment. And so it has been incredibly exciting to be a part of the legislative process. I have been able to focus on my passion of education, as well as pull in economic development and other areas that are so crucial to our state. And I am still very, very honored to be here, and especially to be here with such an excited group today. Thank you.
Is, who are some of your role models who've influenced any area of your life, whether it's character or your ideals of public service or otherwise?
I think I get to go first on every single one. Dee Dee, we're making you start first next time. But I mentioned that my very first campaign was for a woman named Ginger Bass. And what was really neat was when I grew up, I got to hold her seat. You know, Catherine mentioned I served in the Florida House of Representatives. So in 2000, that seat came open, and I was too stupid to know I should lose. I ran as a Republican in a seat that was 60% Democrat, and I just knocked and knocked and knocked. But the nice thing is, you know, I had women like Ginger Bass Wetherell as role models who showed me how to do it with class and style. It didn't ever occur to me that it wasn't something a woman was supposed to do. So, I mean, when you're 29, you just think you can do anything, right? And of course, I guess to you all, 29 is still old. But anyway, it's pretty young for a House member, just in case you were wondering. Anyway, so she was a great role model. I was also very lucky. My mother went to school when you either became a teacher or a nurse, and so she started her professional life as a high school English teacher. But then, when I was in high school, there was an opening on the Pensacola City Council. Are there any Pensacola people here? Okay, good. All right, good. See, maybe you guys are in my district, right? Yeah. Anyway, my mother got appointed to the City Council, and then she also ran for and served in the Florida House of Representatives. She ultimately ran for the Florida Senate, and it was a pretty ugly campaign. She could always win the primary, but had troubles with the runoffs. But anyway, my mother also taught me, you know, you all are a nice generation where you view women as or girls still, I guess, as allies. And so it's nice to learn from other women that we have to be joined together in order to advance causes that unite us. So it really is helpful to make a difference. So I've always had great role models. At Pensacola, at one time, we had a woman head of Gulf Power, a woman head publisher of the newspaper, a woman chair of the county commission, a woman head of the school board, my mother. I mean, so in Pensacola, we don't know that women aren't supposed to be head of everything. So it's really pretty nice. One quick thing, I also was a government major, and I didn't specialize. I wound up in healthcare just because my dad's a doctor, so you never really know how these things will work out. But anyway, boys.
Okay, I'm going to tell you a funny story to illustrate this. So this politician and this preacher died on the same day. And they get to heaven, and St. Peter's at the gates, and he says, all right, come on in. I'm going to take you in and show you where you're going to live. So they take the preacher to his house. The politician to his house. And the politician, it's this beautiful mansion. Just everything you would ever imagine and more about what heaven would look like. Gold, walls, ruby streets, you name it. And so, of course, the preacher's thinking, man, I can't wait to get to see where I'm going to get to live. And so Peter takes the preacher a couple blocks over, and he gets up and he goes to his house, and I don't know, I guess it was just kind of your basic heaven house. And he says, Peter, you got this all mixed up. He says, I have given my life to the poor and the needy. I've taken care of the weak. I've preached the gospel for all my life. This guy over here is a politician. And Peter says, well, sir, you have to understand, we get preachers up here every day. This is the first politician we've ever had. I actually heard that joke told by Bill Nelson in my church, First Baptist Orlando, about 100 years ago. When I was I started interning in the House right after that. I was probably about your age and a little bit older. I guess I was in college. But I say that to say that, I worked for this legislator. Her name was Fran Carlton from Orlando, very conservative. She was a Democrat, but very, very conservative. And she used to say, it's true, we have a representative form of government. And if you believe, as I do, that most people are really trying to do the right thing, you may not agree with them, but they're mostly good. And they mostly try to do the right thing. And so we've got a proportionate number of elected officials who are maybe not so smart, like these ladies here are, or maybe they're not so well-intentioned, but it kind of represents society. And most of the people I've had the privilege of working with on both sides of the aisle, whether they're Republican or Democrat, no matter what their race, religion, or creed, no matter where they came from. And you can imagine, as diverse as your group is here today, how diverse the halls at the Capitol are, from people who are from the big cities like Miami, hi Miami, all the way, okay, the culture in Miami is a little different maybe than it might be over in Mariana or up in the Panhandle somewhere. And I've lived all over Florida. I'm actually a 5th generation Floridian, so I'm a big mutt, I guess. So when it comes to role models, I just want to, I'm constantly trying to talk to young folks and say, look, the word politician is not a dirty word. These are people who are really, really passionate, who put up with a lot of abuse that is unwarranted. They live in a glass house. They get accused of things they never in a million years would have even thought about doing sometimes. Now, some of them do. People make mistakes. Some of them are, do really stupid things. But for the most part, people who are elected to serve on your city council or your student, even your student body, are really trying to do the right thing. And so in terms of role models, I've watched those folks who have weathered the abuse of either the media or the public, who don't really understand all the intricacies of what these folks are faced with. I mean, when I talked about being spread a mile wide